welcome back to the Scenic Route Astrology. Makayla here, and today we're going to talk about the Sagittarius new moon total solar eclipse. That is a mouthful. This is happening on December 4th at 2:44 a.m. in Providence, Rhode Island. So you just want to cast a chart for your location in the world. If you want to follow along with your own natal chart, I do suggest you using astro.com, where you can pull up your natal chart for free. Sorry, Nuggy, come here, come on. You can pull up your natal chart for free, and then you'll want your natal chart in the middle wheel, and then you can layer the December 4th at 2 or whatever time the eclipse is happening for you in your neck of the world on top of your natal chart. Then you'll be able to see what house this eclipse is taking place for you. I think it's also important to know if this eclipse is happening near any of your personal planets, like the Mercury, Venus, or Mars, especially if this is hitting your two luminaries, the sun and the moon, or if this is falling in one of the 4 angles of your chart, the ascendant, the IC, the descendant, or the MC axis. That would be houses 1, 4, 7, or 10. It's also going to be a pretty potent new moon eclipse for you if this is happening in the house of Sagittarius, or in opposition in the house of Gemini, or if it's making a square to Pisces or Virgo houses and any planets that are in those signs. Okay, so this also could be happening in one of the angles for you, highlighting that. Say this is happening in your first house, then all 4 angles of your chart would be getting activated, and that would be pretty potent. If you want to know the degrees, this is happening at 12 degrees and 22 minutes of Sagittarius. So I would use, if your sun or moon is making a conjunction to any of these angles or the Sagittarius eclipse, I could use an orb of 10 degrees. And if any of your personal planets are falling within that, it's going to be more potent for you if it's happening between like 4 or 5 degrees, but you could go up to 10 degrees to kind of get a gear for how this might be showing up. But yeah, if it's in the personal planets, maybe 4 or 5 degrees would be more influential in over the next 6 months of your life. This is like just a basic way to get started to looking at how the eclipse is going to happen for you in your chart. You can always get more detailed if you want to check out where the eclipse is happening for your solar return chart or your progressed chart, or if you're in a relationship that's rocky right now because of this Venus retrograde cycle that's going on, you might want to bring up the composite chart or the synastry charts between you two. Okay, there's a lot of positive energy that's actually behind this new moon. Okay, and in Sagittarius, it's very buoyancy. Okay, it's mutable. You'll be able to change. So whatever is kind of ignited or started for you right now, I do see that you'll be able to have a little bit of diversity, if you will, or movement as this unfolds for you over the next 6 months. All right, the themes here are definitely around your belief systems, your faith, making a change perhaps around them, or starting something new. It's really focused on expanding yourself, if you will, and this depends on what area this is showing up for you in your life. Okay, but really being able to see the big picture of where you want to be headed. And Sagittarius is the archer, okay, is the centaur in the zodiac, and it does have, it's bow and arrow. So think of this as you're shooting out on this new moon, your bow and arrow towards where you actually pitch yourself in 6 months, 1 year from now, 2 years from now. What is that big long-term goal that is beyond the horizon that you're envisioning for yourself right now? Okay, because there's been a lot of change this year for us astrologically, where the movements in the sky have been asking us to reevaluate ourselves, right? Where is our truth, right? What is our truth for us? So this new moon is really about a culmination of really getting clear about where you want to be headed long term, and you might have to make adjustments along that way because life is a scenic route. Okay, we never know what's going to come up, but it is good to have that long-term picture for yourself. And in order for you to do that, you really have to be clear about what your own truth is, your personal truth. But there's an optimistic feeling because Sagittarius is this optimistic sign. It's really encouraging you to set forth on a new quest, if you will, for your own life. It is very potent too because the nodes of the moon, which are still in Sagittarius and Gemini, are on their last degrees of their 18-month cycle. And then they're going to switch into Taurus and Scorpio, which I've been talking about a lot in my videos lately because this is such a huge backdrop for us as a collective. Okay, the nodes in your chart, in your natal chart, are very personal to where you've been and where you're coming from, South Node and past karmic lifetimes. And sometimes you have to relive those things. It depends on your chart. But sometimes the resolution node for people is the South Node, right? But there's always that gear towards the north. You always are trying to grow and evolve towards that north node. So every one of us will have a pair of nodes, a south and a north, in our natal chart. But when we look at the transiting nodes, like we will in this video, this is a collective backdrop for where humanity is headed. And we do take on those qualities as well. And we do have to engage with those energies. Okay. So Scorpio, South Node Scorpio, it's going to be intense because the Scorpio nature is very intense. However, North Node in Taurus is stable, there's structure, there's resources available, there's more self-value and self-worth and assurance for us, and there's a lot of ability for growth with this nodal change. But I do encourage you, if you haven't yet, to check out the Taurus lunar eclipse video that I posted about 2 weeks ago, because this is a part of this eclipse season that we're in, and it'll help you get a rounded picture of the energy going on, which might help you figure out what's going on personally for you, right? So you can navigate on your own quest right now. And then I also really highly encourage you to check out the Taurus and Scorpio videos that I just posted, where I talk about how to work with those type of energies overall. So I think I'm just going to dive right into the chart and give you guys a look at all the aspects that's going on. Here it is. I'm going to get my drawing. Okay, so here you can see we got the sun and the moon. Hold on. Redo. Let's do a circle. Okay, here we go. Here you can see we have the sun, the moon, and Vesta and Mercury all conjunct right here in Sagittarius. And I thought it was really interesting that Vesta was conjunct this sun and moon. So I'm going to talk about Vesta. So the asteroid really has to do with keeping the fire alive and keeping the home and hearth of alive, if you will. Okay, so in ancient Roman times, there was a fire that was kept burning nonstop, constantly. By it started out as 2, but then it became 6 virginal Vestas, is what they were called. And these women were selected from a young age, and they were taken from their homes, and they were chosen to maintain this fire nonstop until the age of 30 for 30 years. Okay, and then they were released. They were allowed to marry, and they also made a salary while they were attending to this fire. But they were sacred virgins, and they were highly respected, and they had many other duties in the Roman times that were very considered very highly. They would make special flour for rituals and things like that. But they were known as like priestesses, if you would. So the downfall of this job was that they could not engage in sexual activity because they had to chastise their body. Okay, and they had to maintain this sacred energy to keep the fire pure, to keep the culture pure, and just tend to Rome's needs. And if they were found guilty of having sex and giving up their body, they had a pretty brutal death where they weren't allowed to shed their blood. It was considered not sacrament if they were killed or their blood was spilled in this kind of like vicious way. So they actually were even worse in their punishment, and they would send them into a coffin or a cellar that they would fill up with dirt, and they would bury them alive. And why I'm bringing this up is because it's almost like this asteroid conjunct this new moon total solar eclipse is asking you to give complete and utter devotion into where you're headed, okay? And to not betray it, if you will, not betray really what your truth is, your personal truths, your personal beliefs, okay? And where you want to go and where you're headed. And it's almost like there's a consequence, not like you're going to get buried alive or anything like that, but like metaphorically, if we can think about it, there's a consequence to this beginning if you betray yourself, if you're not in alignment with your truth and not respecting what your higher self wants, what your soul wants in a deeper level. And usually that is really relative for us if we do betray ourselves some way, right? We're only harming ourselves when we do. I was recently listening to a podcast, and I will link this. Actually, it was an amazing podcast by Michael Mead, and I will link this down below. Last week, and a part of it, he talks about every betrayal is actually an act of self-betrayal. And it is so true that when we run off our course or we make a wrong decision, not to say that we don't make wrong decisions, but if we make a wrong decision and we knew it was the wrong decision, like intentionally knew, and betrayed somebody else or betrayed our own beliefs, then we're actually just hurting ourselves more. So there is this very big, expansive, happy, hopeful energy around this new moon. But I really feel that because it's conjunct Vesta, it's asking you to be completely devoted into, what it is that you're beginning around this time. All right. So for instance, my new moon is happening in my second house, like this chart. This happens to be a Libra rising chart for Providence, Rhode Island, and I'm a Libra rising, not far off from my ascendant. And I am starting on these new journeys that will expand my assets and my self-worth. I'm partnering with people. I am reaching into that 8th house, which is very important for me, for my chart, okay, to incorporate the polarity point. I encourage everybody to incorporate the polarity point in their chart, especially that house dynamic, where forming a union, 8th house, colliding with somebody else on a project is actually going to expand me and reach me out over horizons that I never thought possible before, but I actually do. I believe in them, right? This is very Sagittarius. So this is just an example, for instance. But if I betray myself, if I don't follow through with these new projects and these beliefs that I actually have, then I'm actually betraying myself and I get stuck where I am, which is something I don't want, right? There's a lot of undertones of this second house here. If this was your chart, you're a Libra rising, for instance, around your self-worth and your self-value. So it's really important that with whatever is going on for you, whatever new beginning that you're headed towards, that you really devote yourself to this practice, to this new truth for you, this belief. Okay. I can't encourage that enough, and we also have a trine to, so I'll circle these again. We have a trine to Chiron in Aries. All right. And this is really, really important because Chiron in Aries it's been there for a while. Oops. Those are my notes if you saw them. Chiron in Aries it's been in Aries for a while, okay? And this new beginning can really unlock some healing potential for you, because with Chiron, it is the wounded healer. It is where we feel a hurt in ourselves. And again, we all have a Chiron in our natal chart in a different sign. Those who have it in Aries are having their Chiron return, which is around 50 years old. Okay. But for some of us that aren't on the 50-year, 45, maybe even a little later than 50, we'll have Chiron in a different area of our chart, but we still take on this undertone of transiting Chiron in Aries. And there's a wound here about feeling like you can't do it. Okay, feeling like you can't stand up for yourself or you can't go after what your belief is, okay, asserting yourself, right? Aries nature is very much about going for it, just taking a leap of faith, just taking charge, sometimes not thinking, just doing. But there's an insecure quality sometimes with Aries because it's brand new, okay, it's fresh. It can have some self-doubt sometimes. It can be scared. There can be a fear aspect, even though it is pretty much a fearless archetype. With Chiron there's a wounding to jump towards this new goal. All right. So I think that you dedicating and devoting yourself to this new thing, whatever that is, because it's a trine, it's supportive towards healing that sense of self-doubt or insecurity within yourself. So there's a really good potential to unlock some deep, deep self-healing around your confidence, your courage, the ability to take charge, to take action over an area of your life. There's also another major aspect because Uranus has been a big part of our year this year. The sun, moon, Vesta, and Mercury, but mostly the sun and moon because they're at 12 degrees, is making a quincunx over here to Uranus and Taurus. All right. And so Uranus and Taurus has been shaking things up for us. It's been causing fractures in our life. It's been shaking things or splitting things or liberating us from structures or material resources, earthly stuff, food supply things, right? All these aspects of our life, our values, our sense of self-worth, and where we're putting our values and our assets and our sense of self-worth. It's been kind of shaking that area up for us for quite a long time, and we're not done with it. And there is a Saturn Uranus final square for this year coming up in a couple of weeks. So I think that this quincunx, which is only a degree off, okay, because the sun and the moon are at 12 and Uranus is at 11, and this is a 150-degree aspect in the chart. It's asking for a readjustment and a redirection of your path. And I actually see this playing out as you will set off on a new path, if you will. You're shooting your arrow out somewhere that you wish to go. And you might just have a readjustment in a couple weeks from now or in a couple months from now. Maybe it's not going to show up immediately right now because a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse lasts for about 6 months. Sometimes it can last longer. We're not going to see everything happen right away for us. Okay. But it doesn't sound to me like it's a bad adjustment. Again, like, that's why I've named my business The Scenic Route Astrology, because life is not linear and there's always like a roadblock or a pothole in the way, or if you're flying, right, the weather gets crazy, so you're going to divert your path and get around the storm, if you will. There's no one direction to go. So I think this is like a cosmological just kind of like warning that you might have to make an adjustment, and it could be big or it could be small. It depends on your consciousness right now and how you're working with the energy. But I would say, like, if you are watching this video, if you're in astrology right now and you're involved and you're looking at your chart, you'll be better set for whatever adjustments or redirection of that arrow you need to take in the long run than most people who are blind and they're not looking for this, right? Or they're not aware of this kind of stuff showing up for them. I also think this is very interesting because the sun and the moon is making an aspect to Saturn, and so isn't Uranus making an aspect to Saturn. So Saturn's in the middle right here. Okay, this is called a sextile. Saturn's in the middle, and Saturn has been asking us to look at the way we are heading towards the long haul, the restructuring we're doing, society on the collective level that we're building, but also the structures in our life and the foundations that we're building now. And it also has to do with the boundary layer within our lives, right? So the sextile aspect is an ease and a flow, if you will, to this new beginning that you're building. Okay, the growth, if you will, the self-mastery. But because it's an Aquarius, there's like this objective point of view when any planet is an Aquarius. It can look from the top and look down below and see what is or is not working and go and supporting your personal growth. I also feel like this heavily supports the growth for freedom and liberation, which is a really big theme for us this year. And as we're approaching this Aquarian age, freedom and liberation of yourself and your truth. So again, we have this big, expansive Sagittarius new beginning forming this sextile to Saturn in your chart. All right, you can work on this for the long term. This can be a foundation that you build for long term. This is something that you can master, if you will. Okay, and this is a very intellectual sign. It would be helpful because Mercury is conjunct in all of this in the new moon, to talk about this with other people, to have conversations about how we can actually make society better, make your business better, make your relationship better, whatever this is showing up for you, whatever area, okay? You can create a new system, if you will, for this, right? But you can have it with an undertone that allows you to be free with who you are as an individual and yourself. And because it's also sextile Uranus, you can break free. You can break free from something that's stuck and that's not sitting with you anymore. You have choices. The North Node is still in Gemini. You have choices on where you can go and what direction you want to point your arrow towards. We also have Mars in Scorpio forming a trine to Neptune. And Mars has been in Scorpio for like a long time, and it's almost done. And, you know, that's our warrior planet. That's our planet of action and desire and asserting our will. And it's been in Scorpio, which is the deep, dark waters of our emotional depths, right? The stuff that we haven't wanted to look at. And it's kind of like, we've had a lot of Scorpio energy for the last couple of weeks that we're just getting out of it since the sun has moved into Sagittarius. So you might feel this lighter energy from the last couple of weeks, which is really good, right? Because we dug up some stuff in Scorpio season that really needed to be looked at. And Mars is still there finishing up its thing. But I think that this is a really nice healing aspect in the chart as well. There's a lot of healing energy in this chart to me. Mars in Scorpio wants to take what you haven't wanted to look at, and maybe what you have noticed, maybe what needs healing now, and it actually wants to heal with it. It wants to work with Neptune, which Neptune just moved direct. Okay, so this could go two ways. Okay, you could be overcome by addictions and delusions, because Neptune can blur things, right? Or you can go to the mystical side and you can connect to your spirituality or your religion, or whatever kind of really nurturing, healing qualities there are for you, and take action towards those. Okay, that would be really supportive over this all over journey of where you're headed and of your quest. Okay, so it's basically like, if you're heading out on this quest, what do you want to pack with yourself, Mars? Like, what do you want to grab with you? You want to grab some like food and a container of water, or would you be grabbing your bottle of vodka? Right? That's what I'm seeing with this Mars trine Neptune. Because with the trine, it'll be too easy. It'll be too easy to slip into things that and especially with Neptune, you can slip away, you can lose grip of your goals, of your higher vision, of the long-term goals, right? You can let it go too easy. There's this big water energy with Pisces and Scorpio. Or, you can really devote yourself spiritually, wholeheartedly, to really connect to this heart center, this inspirational energy that can come from this to continue on your quest and to get to where you're going. Okay, totally healing if you choose to go the higher route with this energy. Mars is also square to Jupiter. Okay, and so again, the square dynamic, there's a tension. there's a need for working through. Okay, it can be a very difficult aspect, the square, but it's so dynamic that actually it elevates us because we have to work through something. It's a challenge, but we usually come out of the square more evolved, more developed. And Jupiter in Aquarius is connecting to large groups of people. It's connecting to humanitarian issues, to the systems that we have in place, to religious beliefs, to religious culture, right, that we have. And with this Mars with Scorpio, again, it's kind of wanting to work through the underpinnings of these and how we can make it better. It wants to reveal things and put things into motion that really need to change, that really need an adjustment, that really need an energetic upgrade, if you will, okay, that really need some unlocking so that there can be some healing going on. Lastly, I just want to touch on, which this energy will be more potent in the weeks to come as Venus enters her conjunction with Pluto, but she is entering it. She's close, right? She's only 3 degrees away to meeting Pluto, which she will meet 2 more times after that as she does her retrograde cycle and then moves forward again. And I do have a Venus and Capricorn retrograde video that I highly think that you should check out to get more understanding of this energy in the chart, but I will touch on it lightly, is that on the backdrop of this, you could be partnering with powerful people during this time, or you could be questioning your power dynamics within your relationships, or where you're putting your self-worth or your value or your resources, right? These power dynamics could be coming up right now, but there is a beautiful quality with Venus and Pluto where, you know, you have this harmony and finesse and beautiful feminine energy who's marrying the god of the underworld. So it's almost like Venus is bringing the light to the dark. All right. And she's asking the underworld, the dark, to come to the light a little bit. Let's beautify it more. Let's make it better. Like, let's make it more powerful in a harmonious way, you know. And I think that this is going to be an interesting transit for many people that will show up in different ways. Yes, do I think Venus retrograde, like an ex, could come back? Definitely, but it also could mean that you need to heal something. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to get back with this ex. It might mean that you need to heal something in that relationship that wasn't healed the first time around. So you can clean up some space, you can clear up some energy, and you can have room for more, to be more expansive. You know, Sagittarius really wants to reach out. It really wants to expand itself. But sometimes if we have too much blockage within our life, we're not able to make room for that new. And there's so much expansion in this energy. You know, even with the Aquarius placements in this chart with the Saturn and the Jupiter, right? It's freedom wanting, it's liberating, it's individuality. There's a lot of room in here. And even with Mars and Scorpio, there's a depth of water, okay? Really the only restrictive kind of energy is really this Venus and Pluto conjunction happening, which I really just think that it's showing you where you're stuck, what's holding you back in your money, your finances, your partnerships, okay, the things that you value, what's making you feel stuck here. And it does form that Venus will form a trine. It doesn't in this chart, but it will when she goes retrograde again to Uranus in Taurus. And yeah, Taurus can be a little bit of a fixed energy. It is a fixed energy, but it can be a little restrictive in that sense that it doesn't want to move. But we've got Uranus there shaking things up and helping us move things around that may be too solid, okay, that don't allow us to actually go over that horizon and that path that we should be headed towards. So I'm going to stop my screen share. But overall, yeah, I really just think that this is a great time for healing. If you can think of the dynamics that we talked about in this video and apply them to your chart, you'll get a better understanding of what houses are being pulled into this energy. And really, houses are just the environments where this energy is taking place. Okay, so that's why when we look at the horoscope, this is a general reading for the collective, for everybody. And you can take those dynamics and really get very personal when you're layering them onto your natal chart. And if you have a question about your natal chart, or you want a reading, or if you want a quick reading for this eclipse, where it's happening for you, what's going on, to kind of, you know, figure it out, I'm open for readings. You can contact me on www.astroroots.com, or you can find me on my Instagram and send me a direct message there at the Scenic Route Astrology. I'm more than happy to help you figure this out, because this is a very instrumental time. I always say this, but we're in big changes where everyone's really being encouraged to find their own truth, to individuate themselves, and to become the best, highest version of themselves. Okay. The world is going through a lot of changes, and a lot of people are actually energetically upgrading themselves to a new level that they never thought before. Okay. You can see the esoteric culture, it's expanding, it's blooming, spirituality is blooming, and we're actually shifting away from the Pisces age and the era and old paradigms that don't feel good with us anymore. Old belief systems, they're all breaking down, and we're headed towards new ones. So it's really important that every single buddy does their part in this, because you have a purpose and you have a meaning to be here, and you actually have your own individual life path, soul purpose, and they kind of merge together in one. And astrology can help you figure that out. It actually is more than just horoscopes. It's a deep, to me, it's a tool that you can use for divination that can really go deep into the understanding of yourself. Okay. So anyway, you have unlimited potential, my cosmic warriors. I'm sending you all the love and light. And I really hope that you enjoy this new moon total solar eclipse. It's big. Until next time. Bye.